Locho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe chinle yarngoda pelge drolor tsampe tse parache palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara suma timonisha sane karma Uta varda nyeshre bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Om guru vajradar suma timonisha sane karm. Uta varda nyeshre bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Om guru vajradar suma timonisha sane karm. Uta varda nyeshre bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Om guru vajradara suma timonisha sane karm. Uta varda nyeshre bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Om guru vajradara suma timonisha sane karm. Uta varda nyeshre bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Hakyuke okudang dagi lo pakyuke sundan dagi pakyuke tudang dagi yerme chiktu jingilo pakyuke kudang dagilo pakyuke sundan daginga pakyuke tudang dagi yerme chiktu jingilo makyuke kudang dagilo makyuke sundan daginga makyuke tudang dagi yerme chiktu jingilo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye chodan soge chonam la jancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola pinchira sangye druparesho Sangye chodan soge chonam la jancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi Drola pinchira sangye druparesho Sangye chodan soge chonamla Chancho pardo dani kyapsuchi Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi Drola pinchira sangye druparesho In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. There are different ways in which we can approach our own life. There is a way of approaching life which is, how to say, a way based on distraction. There is a way of approaching life in which we just try to live things, and then whenever there is a real difficulty or something that we need to put specifically effort, we just try somehow to avoid, and then life just go by. No? And then there is another way of approaching life, which is that way which requires more courage, which is that when there is a difficulty, I must be able to overcome it. When there is a good opportunity, I must take this opportunity in the best way as I can. In other words, there is a way of living our life, trying to make our life more meaningful. And there is another way of using our life of just simply surviving. Very often, many of us, now generalizing, we pass a good part of our life just for surviving somehow. And there is a part in which we constantly are distracted. Okay? We're distracted from what? We're distracted from the difficulties we have. There are some moments that there are conflicts, there are fears, there are, maybe we are sad, maybe there is something that is difficult, and we find a way how to distract ourselves from it. Basically because we don't want to put the effort, we see it's difficult, or maybe we don't have the tools, we don't know the means, we don't know exactly how and what, in which way to approach and to deal with that difficult thing. Even sometimes the difficult thing that we have in our life, to deal with it means to accept it. There are things that we can deal basically in three ways. Sometimes we need to make specific choices and actions in order to make changes in situations, and we don't want to approach it. Other times, it means, instead, we cannot do anything in relation to the external conditions, so there are no choices, no actions truly that we can do much, so we need just to change the way how we relate to that situation, which means sometimes we need to accept it, sometimes we need to say, okay, I change my way of perception, but I need to change my way of view, because or I change my way of perception, or I will continue to suffer into it. Okay? And there is a third way, which is the halfway, which means there are some actions that I can do that make some difference in the situation, and then there is also my change of my own behavior and my own way of looking at it and accepting it that also change the situation. Okay, this I think normally is the best, but there are different types of situations that we experience. But what happens often is that maybe we are sad, maybe we have some trauma, maybe there is something there, okay, some difficulty, some conflict, and simply we don't want to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with it. We are afraid of dealing with it. So what do? We get distracted. And basically there are two ways of getting distracted, three ways, let's say, of getting distracted. One way of getting distracted is we get distracted through pleasures. So we fill up our space and our time with objects of desire and moments of pleasure, and maybe for some of us is the food, for some of us is the knowledge. Sometime we can also distract ourselves with the knowledge that is not really useful for anything, but we just want knowledge for knowledge. Sometimes what we want is we can get distracted maybe in, for example, watching movies or distraction. We call the entertainment business, no? Of being entertained with something, and then it's quite dangerous also somehow, because we enter into a whole thing and then we get addicted to it. Now we can see this with all this television and movies and this series and this thing, people, the mind is just busy there. Busy with something that has nothing to do with what we really need to do, but we are distracted, and then we are somehow happy. Somehow, not really, but okay. So this is the nice way of getting distracted, let's say. Okay? Sometimes we are distracted by being attracted to objects of desire. Some people are distracted mainly by sex. There are different ways of being distracted. Which means, what do I mean by being distracted? I don't want to deal with certain things. So I put my energy somewhere else. Okay? Then there is the other way of being distracted, which is not so nice, but it happens often also, is we don't have the strength, we don't have the abilities, for whatever reason we don't want to deal with a certain conflict of difficulty. So what we do, we create another problem in order not to need to deal with the other one. So we start complaining about things, we create conflicts, we create problems, we do another thing. So, how good, I have this problem, so I don't need to deal with that one. Okay? This is something that very often, this happens in a non-conscious way. We are not doing it in a conceptual way. But there are situations in which there are things that we don't want to do. So what happens? Better to get sick other than need to do that. Better to have this problem instead of doing that other thing, Sometimes it's like, I don't know, sometimes kids get sick because they don't want to go to school, It's like, I don't want to go to school, so instead of dealing with the problem of needing to go to school, better I get sick. Or I'm just making one example, but if we look, there are many different ways in which it's like we create conflict, we create difficulties, basically because we don't want to deal with something that is there. Okay? This is another way of distraction that exists. And the third way of distraction, which is very common also, is we make ourselves busy. Basically, I know it's important, but I have no time. This is the modern way of distraction. We have no time. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that, I need to do that other thing, and I'm here, I'm there, blah, blah, blah. And we are always busy, and the life just goes by us, and we cannot see where it goes, what we do, but suddenly, finally, it's gone. And at least I didn't need to deal with that thing, One day more is gone, and I didn't need to deal with that thing. That's good. 1 month is gone, a year is gone, and I didn't need to deal with that thing. Okay. Why? Because I had no time. I am too busy. Which in our modern times is somehow cool to be busy, It's like, it's good. If you are not busy enough, means you are not a person important enough. You are not good enough if you are not busy enough. It's crazy, but... Which is another way of distraction, is another way of escaping. Okay? So, this distraction, it is something that it's dangerous. Because life goes by. And finally, we do not deal with the things that are important to deal with. And it's not because I am distracted from it. It's not because I don't see it that it doesn't exist. And that is not making results or is not making it more complex and difficult. Okay? So, I have been thinking to myself, why do we make so many distractions? And we can see one of the biggest business of the world is the entertainment business. Making people forget their lives, basically, no? Filling up the empty space of our lives. That's what entertainment business is all about, more or less. And also, okay, I am sad, I am tired, I have difficulties, whatever, so okay, let me forget about that, so I get entertained. Sometimes we don't know what to do with our life, so let's get entertained. I love watching a nice movie, I have nothing against it, okay, or listening to beautiful music, or looking at a nice exposition in a museum. It's all fine. The problem is when we take refuge into it. Okay? And that's what many of us do. We fill up our life with things in order not to deal with other things. And this is something that we need to be somehow careful about. Also because life goes by. And it's not because I don't see that the problem don't exist. It's not because if I am sad and then I go and I drink something, I smoke something, I do something, whatever, in order to forget that sadness, this doesn't mean that the sadness goes away. It's still there. I'm just distracting myself from it. Okay? It's like the other day, my mom showed me something which is quite interesting, but it's a very clear metaphor, an example of faking that something has not happened, but this doesn't mean it has not happened. And it's a tradition that exists in Indonesia. There is one island in Indonesia, and they have this crazy tradition, at least from my point of view, it's crazy. For them, it's the most common thing, I suppose. That is that when a person dies, they act just as if the person had not died. So the person dies, let's say the grandmother, the grandfather, the father, the mother, the son, daughter, whoever dies. They keep the person in the house, they change the clothes of the person every day. They bring food for the person 2 times a day. They put formal, I know this type of substance that make the person not to decompose the body. In the past, they used to do with herbs. Nowadays, they do with these chemical things. And what simply happens is that they keep the body there. You know, they change the clothes, they wash the body. The family members call to ask how is the person doing. You know? And they keep like this for maybe 12 years, 15 years. And it's there every day. And then there is like this journalist went into this place and then he saw the kids of the house. They were asking, oh, why grandpa is never moving? Okay, no, don't bother him. Don't talk loudly because he's sleeping, you know. And like the people just go by years and years. And the fact that they act as if the person had not died doesn't mean that the person didn't die. And they all know it. And the most weird thing after that is that, okay, then after that, weird, I repeat, for my own perception is weird. For my culture, for them it's normal, no? For them it's weird the other way around. What happened is that after a certain period of time, 10 years, 12 years, whatever, they make the funeral. So, okay, the person has died. But every 2 years, they open the coffin, they take out the body, and then they take pictures together, they come together, they make a nice family gathering together with the person that have died. For me, it's very weird, okay? But the point is that even though you act like, okay, nothing has happened, it's there. We can do everything to say it's not like that, but it's there. So there are many situations in life that even though we say they have not happened, they are not there, they are still happening. Okay. So I believe it's very important for us to deal with things in life. Okay, if there is a problem, let's deal with the problem. Sometimes dealing with it means I am not ready to deal with it. I need to get rest. I need to get more knowledge. I need to prepare myself to deal with that situation. This means already dealing with the situation. Not to deal with this situation, for example, making a more gross level example, not something so deep. I need to talk to a person about a problem. oh, let me create the right condition. Let me wait the right moment in order to talk with the person. This means I am already putting the energy on the solution. What I want to say that we are doing that I don't agree so much, but it's very common, we are all doing, I am also doing it, is to distract ourselves, to act just as if that didn't exist. And we put our energy someone else in order to forget it. And there are two things that we get distracted from. Good conditions, which are positive things, and conflicts and difficulties and traumas and things that generate the suffering. Okay? For example, I have seen a few times people saying, oh, I would like so much to do more longer retreats and to be able to meditate and to do and so on, but I'm so sorry I have no time to study the Dharma and to meditate more and so on. It's difficult for me, I have no time for that and so on. Then suddenly, out of different conditions in the life of the person have time. Then what the person does? Meditate less than before sometimes. Because start making many excuses and finding many distractions because it's not easy to put effort. And this brings us to another aspect which is very strong in nowadays, which is we have this idea that putting effort means suffering. Effort goes together with suffering. So we have this idea that the less effort I put, the better it is. For me, a clear metaphor of that, like a symbol, is like when we have the people pay to go to the gym, to do exercise, to run while not moving, basically. No? Or there is one time, this was very clear for me, in São Paulo, there was in the road, and there is some gyms that they are with a glass wall, and you can see what's going inside. And people had this machine where they go like if they are climbing stairs. So they climb stairs while actually not going anywhere, no? Which is also a good metaphor for our lives very often. We run, and get nowhere, no? We run not to get anywhere. This means when we just want to make ourselves busy without any objective out of it. But the most weird thing is that what we do, we pay to climb stairs not to get anywhere without moving. And then after, when we go to the airport, for example, we take the escalator. So, why? Because taking the stairs, it's effort. And we try to make our life better by trying to have less effort. Wherever we can do, whatever we can do with less effort, we think it makes life better. So if I don't need to walk, it's better. If I can get something easy, it's better. Before I needed to stand up to change the channel in the television. Now this is unacceptable anymore, We need to have something in remote control. And then after we need to something that in order to cook before I needed to go to catch the wood. And now, no, I don't need. And now, okay, I needed to cut the grass. Now I just put the grass that is always cutted because it's made out of plastic and it looks nice, Or whatever. We try to do things in order to need to put less effort in our life. Very often. In different levels. It's like the law of the minimum effort. The less effort I do, the better it is for me. But the problem is that it doesn't work. The fact is that anything in life, from material things, from acquiring knowledge, from relating with other people, from the spiritual path, without effort, there is no result. We need to put energy into things in order to get result, in order to be able to transform, in order to be able to make things happen. We need to put effort. And putting effort means dealing with difficulties. Putting effort means when I start any path, a job, a study, a relationship, building a house, taking care of the garden, it doesn't matter anything that we will do, there are going to be difficulties. The road is bumpy sometimes, not always be beautiful and smooth, and there are sometimes we need to go up and it's difficult, then we need to go down and it's danger. It's not always easy. It's normal to have difficulties. But when we come from this idea that we cannot put effort into things because effort is suffering and I don't want to suffer, then this brings us to whenever we have a difficulty, we give up. We give up in relationships, we give up in our work, we give up in anything. Why? Because there is some difficulty related to it. Okay, I am generalizing. Not every one of us, it's always like this. Some of us more, some of us less. Okay? But the fact is that whenever we see that there is like a lot of effort, we try somehow to avoid it where it's possible. Okay? So one of the points which is directly connected to that is the fact that we are going to die. This is a fact, okay? There's nothing wrong, nothing ugly with the fact of that we are going to die. For me to say, I am mortal, I am going to die, is just like saying I am alive. Is there anything wrong in saying I am alive? Is there anything ugly in saying I am alive? No. So there shouldn't be anything wrong in saying I'm going to die, because they are just two faces of the same coin, you know. It's just one cannot exist without the other, basically. You know? It's like when people complain that they are getting old, the only way of avoiding to get old is to die young. No? So, this is like this for every one of us, okay? So what happened is that, sure, there are difficulties in when our bodies start getting, I see now, I am young, I am 35, but I see the difference of my body when I was 18 and when I am 20 and now that I'm 35. I see differences that I'm sure that when I'm going to be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever, the body changes and there are difficulties related to it, and this is part of life. But the point that I want to bring is that death, the awareness of death, brings us inevitably the need to put effort in life. Because death, it's the most beautiful thing from away. It's like a great gift that death has to us. The death gives us this beautiful gift of getting away from the distractions of life and needing to deal with the things that we need to deal with. This is one of the beautiful aspects of death. On the other side, what happened is that even though we all know that we are mortal, even though we all know that we are going to die, we just live as if that's not the truth. We just live as if we were immortal. We are constantly distracted from our death. So, how many of us actually do really prepare ourselves for our own death? Consciously. Not many. Even though we know that's the most strong certainty that we have. But we say, okay, maybe not now, maybe one day I will prepare myself to die, you know. And I will deal with this problem later. I will deal with that another moment. But what happens is that this moment we never know when it's going to come. And when we leave it for after, it's not only going to be too late, but most probably I'm never going to do it. So, it is actually very important for us to deal with our own death, to prepare ourselves for our own death. Because when we bring to our daily life our own mortality, it gives us this beautiful gift of making life more meaningful, of needing to deal with things that are more deep and important in our lives. It's one of the best antidotes for our strong, deep laziness in life. For these constant distractions that we have. Okay? So, I believe that one of the difficulties that we have dealing with death is the fact that death brings the need of effort. And we don't like to put effort. Death brings us the fact that, okay, I need to use my life in a good way. I have a wonderful opportunity. I need to use it in the best way because it's going to end. And it's tiring. It needs to put effort, and we don't like it so much. Death brings us the maturity to say, stop being stupid with this and that thing, just come on, wake up. Grow up, don't need to be there complaining because of this and complaining because of that and this and that. That brings us to a state of greater maturity, actually, when we are aware of our own mortality in a way. So sometimes, somehow, there are different reasons why not, but we have the tendency to avoid in our own life dealing with our own death. Okay, it's a subject, we talk about it, and I put it somewhere there. Okay. That's why I'm actually very happy that we have these 4 days to talk about it. I think there's so much that we need to know about it. There is so many ways, approaches that we can have. And one of the things that I want to bring during these days is my own perception, which is actually death is something very beautiful. But when we start looking at death, we see that we need to prepare ourselves, and it requires effort, and I think the effort is fundamental in life. But death is a wonderful opportunity. Actually, death is not something ugly. Death is not a defeat. For me, death is an opportunity, most of all. One of the most beautiful and special opportunities we have in life, actually. Okay. This doesn't mean by the end of these 4 days we are going to try to find, okay, let's die quickly because it's a beautiful opportunity, let's catch it. It's a beautiful opportunity that we need to prepare the most that we can in order to use it in the best way as we can. Okay? And yesterday I was quite some time looking for one book. I couldn't find one book, but I found another book, and which is exactly the book which is talking about how to use death in a positive way and how to prepare ourselves spiritually for our own death, and which is called the 9 Mixings, which is a very specific teaching. I have the book here. It's a book which was written by one great master from Tibet, disciple of Trichan Rinpoche, one of the main disciples of Trichan Rinpoche. His name was Tungar Losang Trinle Rinpoche. He was later one of the most important professors in Tibet. And he wrote one of the most important dictionaries and different texts and so on. And the teachings I received from regarding that process of death and regarding the Tantra were given to my teacher in Tibet from him. So to say, is this connection of lineage also with Tungar Losang Trinle. There is one part in the end, which we will see most probably Monday. And it's a short text that I like to share with you. I received the transmission and teachings from this text from my teacher in Tibet, which received from him, which is a text that was actually a letter. It's a text that was a letter that during the time of Cultural Revolution in China, in Tibet, he wrote to one of his main disciples, because it was a time of total uncertainty. It was a time where everything that you never thought could happen, finally you see happening. I don't know if you have ever seen much about Cultural Revolution. It's the most crazy thing that have ever happened from my own point of view. It was like really seeing the words upside down. Like the school students were supposed to beat the teachers, and everything that was supposed to represent beauty and culture was taken away. So flowers were not allowed, poetry was not allowed, knowledge was seen as the most terrible thing. So people were being punished because they had knowledge. So imagine in Tibet, where spirituality was the fundamental thing, knowledge was important. It's like having the world suddenly completely upside down. No? One time there was a quote which said, very often in the world people got crazy, but only during Cultural Revolution one whole country got crazy. Like really living in insanity. It was very, very difficult to keep one's own sanity of mind in that context. It was really complex. I don't want to go into details right now, but so during that crazy time, the time which was like really like the end of the times, like really difficult, Tunka Losentrile wrote a letter to one of his main disciples, saying to him, look, this is the essence of what you need to practice in life. From all the teachings I have, from everything, practice this. And he wrote this beautiful letter with the very detailed, essential instructions, without so many. He was an incredible poet. But he wrote this letter without too many poetry around, without so many metaphors, without too many philosophical explanations. He went down to the point on his own practice, and he wrote to him saying, read this letter, memorize it, the practice that you should do, and when you finish it, burn the letter away. Because of this letter, because it's something spiritual, you could put in jail or whatever. So he said, read the letter and then after burn it. But he kept it, the letter. He read the letter, he kept, and he hid it somewhere, and he have hidden it in a very difficult place. And then after, when the Cultural Revolution was finished, he kept it for many times. And later, when they printed all the collected works of Tunka Losentrile, they put inside the letter. So this is what I like to read next Monday, most probably, in order for us to see these beautiful instructions of this very special teaching, which are called the 9 mixing. And just to have an idea, I was, when I told Lama Lawang from Milan that I received these teachings in Tibet, then he came to me after, he said, oh, I want so much these teachings, could you please share with me? And because I asked these teachings to some other geishas and some important people, when they said that these teachings are too deep and too profound, and they couldn't share that with me. Can you share? I said, okay, whatever I know, I'm happy to share. No? So I came together, Lama Lawan came one day at Rinpoche house. He caught me, he put me sitting in the gompa there, and then he did 3 prostrations, take the kata. He said, now you share it with me. No? Then I came and I read together with him, and then we went through it together, and then he was very happy about it. So it's something very, very precious that we have here, okay? So I was happy that I didn't find the other text, so I went to look for this one, and I found it. So I have the direct transmission of this, and then we have also Rinpoche gave us the transmission of the same practice, which is basically the practice how to prepare ourselves during our life in order to use the death as the best opportunity of life. Okay? So we will not see this right now. This is what we will see most probably on Monday. And then this just to say this is something I have been preparing. I think it's something very, very precious that we have. Okay? And it's very beautiful because when we see, it gives a different meaning to life. And these teachings specifically, when I received them the first time, it was the first time for me that I had the feeling deeply it is possible truly to reach enlightenment. It was through these teachings that this thing touched my mind and I said, it is actually possible. Okay? It is something that I don't want to go more into that now, but it is something that is like, it's simple, but at the same time so powerful, so clear. It's something that the instruction is there, step by step. If we really do it, it is possible. Okay? So we have this opportunity, and it's beautiful because this instruction is based on the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and the Guru Puja, which is basically what we do. So it's something that, in this sense, it's something very special. So most probably tomorrow we will see the whole process of death, and then this will prepare us later to go through this. There's some preparation for this text, and then we will go through it most probably Monday and Tuesday. Okay? Another important thing is that when we start talking about the process of death and understanding it, tomorrow we will go into more details about the actual process of death, understanding better how it is happening and so on, to get more acquainted with death itself, understanding better how it's happening and so on, which is important. It's a sort of making friendship with death, which is very helpful. And then on the other side, it's very important for us to understand where we are right now. It's like, in order for us to reach anywhere, we must always start from the place where we are now. And this is fundamental, because my fear is that we will talk about death, but we can talk about death in a very idealized way. How to prepare to death, how to meditate on death, and so on, in a very idealized way, far away from where we are. And in Buddhism, one of the very fundamental concepts is what we call in Tibetan Shilam Dresum, which is Shi, the basis, Lam, the path, Drebu, the result. Which is, the very start, we always must be aware of where I am in order to project where I want to go and what path I need to follow in order to reach where I want to go. It's like if I say, I want to go to Borobudur in Indonesia. Wonderful. But if I need to plan my traveling, where do I need to start my traveling from? Where I am, right? Oh, but where I am is too far. I prefer to buy the ticket from Dubai. I would prefer to buy the ticket from Singapore. Okay, at this point, buy the ticket from Yogyakarta, no? There's no point of making it like this way. But what I want to say is like, oh, it's too much effort, it's too difficult for me to leave from Albagnano. Oh, I need to leave from, it's too far away. You know, the most near place to go anywhere is where we are. Anywhere else is much more far. I don't know if this is a clear concept. To go anywhere, if we want to start going from a place that we are not, it's much more far than to go from where we are. Because what happens is that we start projecting, oh yes, I want to go there, but I would start traveling from there and this and that. But finally, anyhow, to really go, we need to start from where we are. It's like sometimes we have a project, we have an objective, we have something, and we have difficulty accepting really where we are, which are our tools, which are our, what's the word in English? The resources that we have. And we base ourselves on resources that we don't have. And then we can stay sometimes a long time trying to act and trying to do and trying to reach with resources that we don't have, because we are not able to accept where we are and to start from where we are. So it's like we go and, oh yes, I would need, but because that person is not doing, because that other is not happening, because of this or that, we find different reasons that justify the reason why we are not moving, but very often because we are not accepting where we are. So one very first important step is to say, where am I? What are the resources that I have? And it may seem a bit contradictory, but it's actually, for me, very clear when we say that we need to start, the nearest place to start is where we are. If we start from anywhere else, even if that place is more near to the result, it will be more far. The most near place to start from is where we are. Okay? That's why we could start in all the teachings. Normally we start with the part of the Shi, the basis. Where am I? What are the resources that I have? The second step after that is understanding which is the path that I can go. Because maybe there is a path that will be faster, but I don't have the resources to go through that path. That's too difficult for me. And sometimes we stay blocked, not moving, because we say, I want to go to the shortcut, but I'm not able to go to the shortcut. So we stay there being blocked, trying to be able to go to the shortcut, instead of walking through the pathway that we know that is possible for us to go through. You know? Even with very small things, I found myself many times into this situation. Like when I do some work in the computer, I find I want to look for a shortcut. And then maybe, it takes more time looking for the shortcut than acting the long way. So there are times which I know if I have my own intuition. Sometimes I know that I can get it, and sometimes I get it and it works. But there are many times that, okay, there is no real intuition. It's just the craving to get it, make it short, and then we want to make it in a short way, but then it becomes much longer. Because anyhow, you need to do again and again, then it's not working, then somehow you need to go, and finally you need to walk through the other way. So, again, the shortest path is the one that we can go through. Okay? But that way would be shorter. Yes, if I could go through it, it would be shorter. But because I cannot go through it, for me it's not shorter. It's longer. I don't know if it's clear, this concept. Because it's like, okay, if I climb the mountain, it would be shorter than going around on the path. But I don't have the skills to climb. And I try and I fall down. I try and I fall down. Finally, I'm there all broken because I'm lazy to walk around. And finally, there I am walking with my back painful because I fell down many times. So, the shortest place to start from is where we are. And the shortest path to go through is the one we are able to go through. And one important thing is our own ability to accept the resources that we have and to say, yes, that's possible. And for whatever reason, this connected me to a memory I had from when I was I think, 10 years old. Or 9 or 10 or 11, something like this. I went with my grandparents to United States, to Disney World. And one day I was with my grandfather into one shop in Disney, somewhere there, where they were selling tennis shoes. And at that time in Brazil, for the kids was like the most nice thing to have was the Nike or Reebok shoes and this thing. It was like, oh, that's what the kids we really liked, So, and in Brazil they were very expensive, so it was like, okay, and in America that's the opportunity to get their nice shoes and so on. So I was in the shop with my grandfather and he was going to give one to me. And then I entered the shop like someone that is very hungry and wants to eat right away, And I went right away to the shoes, which I really like. And I went and I said, I want this. Then he looked to me in a very calm way. And he said to me, can you repeat want? There is no want here. What would you like to have, if possible? No? He said in a very nice way. And I remember very clear my sensation at that moment that I tried to put in words now. First, I felt ashamed. One thing was because, for me, because I wanted, I should have it. And because my grandfather loves me, he cares for me, it's his duty to give me what I want. It's subtle, but it's there. Sometimes not so subtle, but it's like this aspect that because I want, I must have it. So what happens sometimes is that we suffer a lot because we start from the point of what I want and not from what I can. So the words which he said, what would you like and what can I have? Not what I want to have, what can I have? And this connects me to another thought, which is just some short brackets, then we go back before. Which is the fact that sometimes I was talking to some friends and people that there is sometimes the attitude that there is the expectation that the parents, for example, should give money or for sometimes people make plans and expectations on a possible heritage from one's own parents. Like, because it's yours and you are old, you must give it to me. Like, you cannot use it. And one time I was talking to a friend specifically about a specific situation in this way, and I just shared my point of view, which remains the same, which is our parents, what is theirs, first thing. If one day, after they passed away, and if they passed away before us, because the opposite could also happen, If they pass away before us and they leave anything for us, we should be grateful and thankful. But we cannot expect on that. On the meantime, if our parents want to spend everything they have buying chocolate, it's not good for their health, but they are free to do it. Because it's not mine, it's theirs. And what they choose to give, I am grateful because the gift that I receive. Okay? Sometimes we have this idea that we enter into this strange mindset in which I think that if I take for granted that you need to give something to me. And when I take for granted that it's my right and you must give it to me, then I'm not able anymore to be grateful for what I receive even. And when I have the expectation that I will get 100, when I get 20, I'm sad about it and I'm angry about it because it was not enough. And then you are not truthful, you're not right to be, whatever, okay? So, what is not mine is not mine. And what someone give to me, I'm just grateful and thankful for that. I think it's important. Anyhow, going back. We need to start from where we are and we need to accept where we are. Understand where we are and say, this is where from I will start. Not from an idealized position. I start from where I am. So in which context we are talking about this? In the context of understanding death. Dealing with death. First thing is understand where I am. Where I want to go, what's the path that I can follow. Okay? But this is a concept that is useful in so many things. Even if we're talking about a company, a business, we cannot expect to do things out of resources that we don't have. We need to do things out of where we are. It's not like, oh, if the market would have been different, I would have been done differently. If I had that product, then it's not possible, you know. We need to start from where I am. What do I have? What can I do with what I have to go where I want to go? Okay, this is important in every aspect of life and the spiritual path very much. Okay. In order for us to understand where we are, there is a very important question that we need to make to ourselves in the context as we are talking about the process of death. There's a very important question that we need to make to ourselves, that the first time that someone made me this question, that made me think about it more, it was a taxi driver in Rome. I went to Rome for a congress and I was alone in the taxi. Then the taxi driver looked to me and I said, what are you dressed like that? No? Then I tried to explain to him, a Buddhist monk, blah, 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 and then he didn't understand much and he said, do you people believe in death? I didn't know really much what to answer. It was so obvious, the question, no? And then I asked him, but what do you mean by death? And he didn't like so much. So I simply said to him, if by death you means the complete end of life where there is nothing else coming after, I do not believe in death. If by death you mean the separation of body and mind or soul, and that there is a continuation after death, then I believe in death. No? And this is actually a fundamental question because very often we may pass hours and days discussing about something and actually we mean two different things. So when we study, for example, the dialectics in the monastery, Buddhist philosophy, one of the important things that we do is we ask for definitions. So when we start discussing about something, first of all, what do you mean by that? Give me the definition. And then maybe we need a definition within the definition. And we can stay, first of all, discussing what is the definition in order to use it after. So if we want to discuss about death, the first question that will come is, define me death. It may look like a simple question, but actually it's not. Okay? The only common thing that we can find in the definitions of death that we can give is the fact that the body is not able to function anymore. That's the only common aspect. I find 3 different explanations or concepts that we can give about death. Maybe there are more, sure, but in my understanding, in the culture where we live, I see 3 possibilities. First of all, is that death is the final end. Is when the body cannot function anymore, and by the fact that the body cannot function anymore, there is nothing after that. There is no more mind, there is no more consciousness. Finish. Consciousness is just a result of the processes of our neurons on our brain and so on. So, in the moment that we die, everything is just finished. Nothing more after that. Okay? So, it's a linear way of seeing that we have the life when we are born is one point A, when we die is a point B, and there is nothing after that. Finished. Final end. The end. Finished. Nothing more. There is another way of seeing in which we have birth as the beginning, death as the end of this life, but there is a concept of continuity. For example, in the Christian tradition, once we die, we can be reborn, even though maybe this word is not used, but we can be reborn or in the heaven or in hell. Okay? I have no much understanding about the Christian tradition, I cannot talk much about it, but from my ignorant understanding, what I see is like, okay, from that perspective, and it's the same in many different religious traditions, when we die, there was no life before our birth, so it's the beginning. Then we go linearly as we are living, then we die, so there is point A, point B, and then there is a point C, which we can go or to eternal life in heaven or to eternal life in hell. Okay? So, this is one other perspective, where life is not the end, but is the end of a life as we know life here, and after that is the beginning of another type of life, which it's linear and it's forever. So death is also a very important moment of judgment. It's the moment in which we will define our eternity. Okay? This is one way of seeing. Another way of seeing, which is the one which in Buddhism is in sight, but not only Buddhism, other traditions also are there, is where death is a passage, and we go through it again and again. It's like point A is birth, point B is death, but point A and point B, they join together. And after death, there is birth again. If we make an analogy, that tomorrow we will look this analogy more in details, between the relation between death and falling asleep. Imagine what would happen if every time we fall asleep, we would go into a total amnesia and we would not be able to remember at all anything from the previous day. We wake up, no memory. We fall asleep, we wake up, no memory. First of all, most probably we would be afraid of falling asleep, because we will be afraid of ending. It will be just like dying. Okay? Why we are not afraid of falling asleep? Is because we have memory of the continuity between one day and the other. Okay? How much can we actually trust our memory, really? Truly speaking, not much, I think. Like, how much do we really remember of what have happened? And how much of what we remember is what really happened, and how much is what we made up in the between time? There was even one study done short ago about this factor, and what they did is that they took a big number of people, and they took nowadays with Facebook and so on, like pictures from the person's life, like many years ago, and many things that happened. So they made a sort of a timeline with pictures of moments that the person went through. And then they went to the people and they would say, okay, can you tell me the history? They would show the pictures and say, tell me what happened here. And then the person will tell, and then, okay, tell me what happened there, and then the person will tell. So they will have the life of the person, the past, put into pictures, and then the person needs to tell this history of remember the moments of that pictures, okay? But then what they did is that in between these pictures, they put some photoshopped pictures, fake memories. And they were very similar, and they were like pictures of people that they were like in, balloons. Which is thing that not everybody do, right? Going into a balloon, an air balloon, a big air balloon. And then they Photoshop this person with someone that was together with them in that moment of their life, in a context where they have never been. And most of the people described that moment as a memory that happened. Okay? So one of the reasons of this study is for legal reasons, because one of the main strong bases when there is a judgment and that the judge needs to have the reference that we use testimonies, witness. We have eyewitness. But how much can we trust an eyewitness if we cannot trust our memory? So this is a legal problem, not our problem, okay? So this study, it's very much for that also. Because how much is what have happened? How much is a mixture of our memory with the memory of what someone else told us? Now, things mix up as we go by of our life. We don't keep so much the memory, even how many things we learned and completely forgot. I have many things that I don't remember anything about. There are texts and I don't remember a word of it. Even the first word I don't remember. So normally, our character, the deeper level of our self, emotions and so up, shape ourselves, go along our life. Whatever, okay? Shape ourselves as we go. Of our character, experiences that we have in the past, but we don't remember the experiences anymore, but we still have that character with us. This is the same like dying and being reborn. We do not remember, but we still bring the character from life to life. It's like having a total amnesia, but we still have the character. We still have the deeper emotional aspects. They could still continue there. Okay. So, the question that we need to make to ourselves is, what is death? Is it an important passage from which I will go to one direction or another? Is it just a passage of something that repeats again and again? Like where there is a saying which is, nothing begins, nothing ends, all transforms. So is death just a passage? And wherever there is death, there is life, there is birth. Wherever there is birth, there is death. You know? Because that's inside the Buddhist perspective, which is, if there is birth, inevitably there will be death. If there is death, inevitably there will be birth. So they are of the same nature, actually. One is bringing the other. That's why I was talking one day with one professor, and he was saying that according to many traditions, death is actually the beginning, not the end. So, what is death? And the concept that death is the actual end is very strong in our life, in many aspects. We have even the idea that when something ends, it's finished. Like, for example, in Buddhist philosophy, there is the concept of relative and absolute phenomenon. And according to the Vaibhasika philosophical school, a relative phenomena is something that when we break it or when we deconstruct it, we cannot apply anymore the concept to it. So, for example, a cup is a relative phenomena, because if I take a hammer and I beat it, or if I throw it on the floor and it breaks into many pieces, I'm not able anymore to call it a cup. So that concept cannot be applied to it anymore. That's why it's a relative phenomena. But in the moment that the cup breaks and it's not a cup anymore, it's not ended. The cup is not there, but is there something that continues? All the pieces of the ceramic, the material which was used for the cup, it becomes something else. So the death of the cup gives birth to something else. And like this is everything. In order to be alive, there must have been death of something else that gave life to this, gave birth to something else. So nothing begins out of nothing. Everything is a transformation of something else. And we have this strange idea somehow that when you relate to things like this, no? We have the idea, oh, this is finished, we throw away. It's like we have this idea that starts out of nothing, ends out in nothing, and then finished. But actually it's never like that. Everything that starts, sooner or later will end. And when it ends, is nothing more, nothing less that concept, that identity cannot be sustained, and it's going to be transformed into something else. Even the death of our body, when we die, is not the end of this body. It's a transformation of it into something else. No? We can be food for some animals. Can be so many things that can be transformed this body into. No? So the important thing is to understand that cyclic reality. Something starts. When it starts, it will end. The end is nothing more, nothing less than the beginning of something of a new reality. Okay. So when something ends, inevitably will continue in something else with a different identity, a different memory. Most probably we are not aware of the new reality, but it's not like, okay, black hole, nothing there. No? It ends, it will go into something else. So when we talk about death in this context, it means that when we die, this body cannot sustain anymore this identity. Maybe the gross mind with the memories is not there anymore, but we will continue into a new life, with a new identity, with a new body, with a new reality. Okay? We'll go into more technical details about this tomorrow, but it's like understanding that actually there is a process of continuity and transformation. Okay? So I leave you today with this question. What is death? We don't need to have the Buddhist answer. We need to have our own answer. Because it changes our way of relating to life and consequently our way of relating to death. Or better, changes our way of relating to death and consequently our way of relating to life. So, we need to understand, and maybe our question is, I don't know what is death. Truly, I don't know. I have no clear idea. So, death is something that I don't know. It's something an incognito, which is okay. Which means where am I right now? In doubt. So, first step is define death. Then we can prepare ourselves for death. Because depending on what is our definition of death, it will change the way how we deal with it and how we prepare ourselves for it. Okay? So this is all for this morning. I'm very happy that this afternoon I am not going to be here because actually at 2:30 I was supposed to be in Milan at the University of Architecture in Milan. I had two double commitments, my own confusion. And they invite me to give one class on one course they are giving in the University of Architecture about sacred architecture in Buddhism. I don't know what I can say about that, but something will come out. Anyhow, the fact is that I cannot be in two places at the same time, and I gave my commitment before there, and I'm very happy that my mother is here, and she has a long experience dealing with terminal ill patients and preparing other people to deal with their own death and helping their family to deal with the death and so on, and has a really good experience on that. So I asked her this afternoon to give the teachings, the explanations, to share her experience with us about that. And I'm very, very happy about this. It's something that I think is better than having planned something else. I think in this way it's something very positive. I'm just sorry I cannot be here because I need to be in Milan. So this is what at 3:30 we will do, okay? Jetson la me kutse rapten chi namkar chinle chochur gepada losan tempe drome sasumgi drove minsel tatu ne gyur chi nimo dele tsendele delek pe koncho sumki jingi lo koncho sumgi ngodrup sol Concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.